Welcome to the Coaching Edge podcast with your co-hosts, Dr. Steve Jeffs and Erwin de Grave. Each episode, we bring you expert guests and transformative coaching insights. Let's dive in.
I'm Dr. Steve Jeffs. I'm the Director of Coaching for the Coaching Tools Company. And with me, of course, is
Erwin de Grave, CEO of the Coaching Tools Company, and welcome everybody to the podcast. And today with, as Steve said, with Tinus van der Merwe. I hope I say this correctly. Tinus, welcome, Tinus.
Thank you. Yeah, perfectly articulated, Erwin. It's good to be with you. And well, Steve, you'll know it's always my pleasure and passion to anything coaching. Yeah, anytime.
I love it.
So, you're saying coaching. So what is that? So what, you're a coach. What kind of coach are you? What do you do in that field?
Yeah, I'm not too keen on labels. I guess, though, if you want to put a label to it, these days, I think I'm more of what they call a transformational coach, where people go through deep transformations. So it's more than about performance, but it is really who the people are, how they develop and grow and change for the better from their point of view, and those around them.
So if you look at transformational coaching and transformation, you can go in different ways. Are there specific things that you use in your coaching that to help people to transform their lives, their businesses?
Things I do and I look for is, what's behind them, what's hidden, what's not being said. So the more obvious ones would be in body language, just a simple twitch. When they say a specific word or something, I pick up on that. Subtle changes in energy, you can hear from their speech. It just slows down a bit, or it picks up speed, or it becomes almost like a stutter, or sometimes it's very subtle, and not easy to pick up. But I would go there and then see what's happening. There's always something where that comes from, and that's hidden. So we bring it in the open, and that's when the transformation happens.
So bringing into the open that which is hidden. Hey, for those coaches out there that are new to the profession, logically, how does it make sense to pay attention to the body, those twitches, those subtleties, without getting too kind of woo-woo or weird? How does that make sense?
Yeah, well, Steve, for new coaches, and I know also from my experience, although I did similar stuff, so getting to that wasn't hard for me. But I know for new coaches, and I've been training coaches for a number of years now, they think I'm nuts when I talk about those things, but nobody expects of them to see that. So best they can do is to look for obvious, excessive hand gestures, or change in voice tone and speed of their speech, and things like that you can really observe quite easily, and then explore that. They don't need to go, and I know it's hard when you're new to this game to go deep emotional. At least you can go to the thinking and thoughts, which then will probably take the client a bit deeper into their emotions, even though they won't show that or share it. That's a good start then, So I certainly don't expect of my student coaches to go deep under the surface, when they're ready, when they have the confidence and so on. when they've made a few mistakes during coaching and, when they fell and got up, that's when they become ready.
I love it.
to
A
do
couple
that.
of things I hear in that. One is you're pointing to us as coaches to look beyond just the words that are being said. I made a note here. You're coaching the client, not the content. That's part of what I'm hearing. The other thing I hear you paying attention to is almost the client's experience of sharing whatever they're sharing. So there's the content that they're sharing, but there's their experience in how they're doing that, and that's a really great place to get curious in addition to what's being said.
Absolutely. And I would always encourage my students to look what happens with the client while they're telling their story. I'm not really interested in the content of their story, although there's a little bit, because you can see from certain words. Sometimes there's just a slight pause or something, and they mention a word or a different reaction, and that's what they got to look for. If you concentrate too much on the story, the content, you miss those things.
Yeah, I love it. Great tips.
So I've heard a few times that you said now that your students. So do I understand, and is that correct, that you teach people to become coaches and help them, like a faculty coach?
Yes, that's correct.
And what are you doing? So what is one tip that maybe you can, next to the looking behind more deeper, what is, as a, if I may call it this, a teacher coach towards a student coach, of what you've just been talking about, what is one thing, maybe an easy tip that they can take, and the people that are listening, that they can take home and say, oh, I'm going to start maybe looking, how can I look for that specific word, or how do I need to look at that small movement or tick that they're doing?
Okay, for me, one thing, and now I must admit, this came to me very late in my career as a coach, but if it will help to fast track the students to just skip one or two areas where they might fall flat. This is just to get them, they will still make mistakes because they have to learn. So for me, the one big thing is people talk about the coaching conversation. For me, that's not really where it's at. It's coaching is an experience, where you can experience with your whole being, emotionally, physically. Your body can go, can do weird things when things start to shift inside you. And your mind up here is very often the trigger to bring that awareness, So just having a conversation, you might have the odd tear or so, but it's still a conversation, Go and have a cup of tea when you want to do that. If you want a full coaching experience, be with the whole person.
Yeah, just being, if I understand, being fully there, not being with your mind somewhere else, like 100% with your client and coachee, and really listen to all the different levels that you need to listen to.
Yeah, be with the client. I used to say, but I'm not too fond to use war metaphors, but I used to say, follow the client like a heat-sinking missile, to see what they're doing. Follow them like that. Now, there's probably more constructive and uplifting metaphors to use. Just stick to the client, follow them.
You're like a detective, basically.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So you just say yeah. So I imagine you're from in South Africa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Want me to say yeah again?
Well, I like it, but
yeah.
I just popped up and say yeah.
Yeah.
So have you been living all the time in South Africa? Were you born in South Africa, or have you been moving around the world?
Well, I was born here and I grew up here, and I think I was age 52. I went to Saudi Arabia, and I was going to stay there for 1 year. So 7 years later, when I was too old for Saudi, well, it's more like about 8 years. So when I turned 60, I had to leave, because in the Middle East, you're too old then for a full-time job there.
So
Otherwise, I would have still been there probably. I don't know.
yeah. So you were a coach, but I don't imagine that you started as a coach. So how did you got in contact with coaching, and your first experience of coaching, and what did you do before that?
Okay, we heard of coaching in the probably around about 89, 1990. And one of my managers is industrial psychologist. So he went about in a coach course. I mean, he was mad with me, but the way he spoke with me, I never felt like I did anything wrong, but I got the message. So it wasn't in a punishing and aggressive way. So I became interested in that, and then early 90s, I left and I started in my own way, because you had the simple performance coaching model. It was still early days for coaching overall anyway. So we were all feeling our way. And then one of my colleagues came, he said, "You interested to go to this?" I don't know if I'm allowed to mention coaching companies' names, but he said, "You're interested? I need to take a few people to attend this coaching course." Steve was there as well, not that time, but he certified through the same company. So I went, and it was a whole weekend. And I went there, and I was there for about 5 minutes or 10 minutes, and I knew, okay, I'm going to do this. So, but then my company was slow to get us through the whole program. So I had to wait until I went to Saudi, which was probably about, almost 10 years later, before I could finish my certification in Bahrain. If I'd done it in Dubai, I probably would have met Steve earlier. But logistically, it was easier for me to get to Bahrain. So that was 2009, 2010. And then from there on, 2014, I did another one, again with a company that Steve was involved. So something was pushing us to get together. So that first, that first contact with real coaching, because obviously it was a bit more advanced than when I started to learn about it. That was really the starting point. But before that, I was doing organization development. I had part of my job at some stage was to people who were, let's call it transgressing. I had to work with them, not disciplinary wise, but just from a counseling point of view, because I have counseling psychology as a background academically. And so I really enjoyed that, working in that way, and then to find solutions for them. And everything I did after that was always from a behavioral point of view, even remuneration and things like that, which I did, performance management, always. And there with performance management, that's where the coaching thing really came into being, because we're looking at a different direction of your usual performance coaching. But I wanted more development and not focusing too much on their work goals.
Interesting.
going to the person, what do they need to develop and grow?
One of the things that I'm appreciating about your journey is it mirrors a lot of how clients, certainly organizational clients, have seen coaching. As you said, hey, we've got this person, they're transgressing, they're not performing, they're doing things. Let's get a coach and hopefully either they get better or we can justify exiting them. And then this transition towards not just performance management, but performance development, inspirational, as you said in your journey, to go from performance orientation to a transformational engagement, what's possible. I think it's really interesting how that mirrors the market. One question I've got for you, so knowing a little bit about you, you've worked with clients external, sort of private clients, you've worked internal as an internal coach. What did you learn about coaching while you were inside an organization coaching on the inside?
Yeah, well, even as an external coach, you will find those dynamics. But internally, you are there. You're close to the person requiring coaching, very often sent by the boss, but you're also close to the boss. So you're more connected to the dynamics there and seeing what the relationship is about. And it's never the boss that needs coaching, It's always fix this guy or this woman for me, fix them. And I would say, well, you know what's going to happen. If I do fix them, your relationship's going to change and things are not going to necessarily be better for you. So they need to understand that. And as an internal coach, I think I don't know if it's maybe harder to get them to, okay, some things are left there with the coaching process that we don't talk about. Okay, so we need to be very specific and sure who can share what things with who. So as the coach, what can I share with the manager? Anything more than that, the manager needs to speak with the coachee.
Okay, so very clear contracting design.
Yeah.
Very conscious application of the ethical framework and definition of the roles is what I'm hearing, because of the inherent complexity and the already established relationships and communication channels. All right.
Yeah.
What's the risk if you didn't pay attention to those things?
Well, it can just, get out of hand. Well, the coach can get into trouble very easily not through being, but not through being, not doing their job, but the management they're not doing what management want them to do, against their ethical principles. So they can get into trouble. Also, it can damage relationships. Yeah.
To jump in there, I think what I heard you just said is that management can be asking a coach to do things that the coach doesn't feel are ethical. Is that what I heard you say?
Yeah. Because I'm bound by a code of ethics. Right. Now, the organization also have their code of ethics. But usually there's lots of alignment. So, but when, and managers don't always worry too much about the ethics. I want this and don't come with anything else,
So who's the client then? So certainly in an organizational setting, and it's similar when we come in from the outside, because you've got the coachee, the coach and the coachee. You've got the manager who said, hey, I want you to coach my employee. As a coach, you're receiving your salary from your line of management, your bosses, and the organization. How do you prioritize those different stakeholder needs?
Yeah, that's a great question. And in my mind and my experience, it's a balancing act. And one thing I will not, and I haven't, that I won't share is personal and private information that the coachee shares. That belongs to them. Only they can decide whether they want to share that with anyone else. That was one thing I've always been, adamant. I will not share that. So if that's what you want, then find somebody else to do this. Okay. And so yeah. So the client, if I'm internal coach, often there's somebody in HR, talent development, or whatever. They'll be the subject heads for coaching because it's part of leadership development. So they will also be a client. Yeah. But we're almost in the same kind of boat, because then it's either is it management or the next higher level or the chief officer or the CEO. So you can still have a few clients there. Depends who can identify the need. Even though the HR person might have made them aware of it, and they might have had conversations with external coaches and so on, and then decided, okay, this is what we need. That would be the main client, because they are the ones that pay the money.
Interesting. So part of what I'm hearing in all of this is, I think you've done a wonderful job of describing the potential complexity that emerges when we're coaching in organizations in particular, whether you're internal, whether you're an external consultant coach, sort of coming in to serve that audience. Part of what I've seen, and part of what I know that you're pointing us to, is to have transparent clarity around those roles.
Yeah.
To be designing with HR project manager, with the manager, with the client, the coachee themselves, with the CEO and the other stakeholders, to try to get people onto the same page. To go, well, actually, here's how this works. This is the reporting that happens. Here's who it comes from. Here's who it goes to. Here's what can, here's what can't be shared. And just to put all of that stuff on the table. And I think what I'm hearing, or maybe this is my approach, is that it's not about a particular answer that we have to have and a particular right way of implementing, but it's a lot about the creation of transparency and alignment, which is actually some of the things that we do as a coach when we're designing our alliance with a client, is to have the conversations that need to be had to create the transparency that needs to be created.
Absolutely. And it's a whole onboarding process. And the more coach-like you can do it, the better you're creating that synergy and that climate for coaching in doing that. So it's just like designing with one client. Now you just got quite a few more, and it's more complicated because people have their own agendas. Some would have two agendas, their own, but then also of the company, but also of their business unit or organizational unit, which might clash with what the company, you know this whole thing, trying to find synergy when you develop organizations and change management. This is all part of change management anyway, in the bigger scheme of things. So if you can get that right and have all your role players and stakeholders together, and you have this one big onboarding thing, but it's not an event. There's like a kickstart, and then this needs to continue until everybody is sure and agree on, okay, this is where we're going with this, and this is our roles and all of that. I would not chase that thing. I would not fast track it. I would prefer it to happen kind of organically, let it unfold. Because anyway, when you start something like this, I believe you start this and then a process forms and that process takes over. It's like, when two people get together, there's like a third personality that develops as well, which is that you can call it the gestalt, or that thing that's bigger than all of the rest combined. So let that take over and you follow it, and you can still influence it, but you're not going to be able to manipulate it.
I want to point something out when I'm listening to you. Is it's not only what you talked about, that complexity within an organization for a coach. It's the same for a management consultant. I've been in that world. It could be the same thing for a psychologist. You have all those different roles that or that come to businesses to help them, to organizations to help them to solve one or another problem. I just want to point that out. So that's because I've seen it. But secondly, I would like to challenge you, Tinus, about the following. We're just saying, okay, I'm here as a coach to go in an organization to look to help the coachee. From my viewpoint, I would go in there. I am here as a person. I have coaching as a tool. Your psychology as well. Would you go into a relationship with an organization where the manager say, I got a problem with that person, I need it solved? Do you say, I just do coaching? Or do you say, okay, that's fine, I'll talk to that person, and from there on, I'll see what are the different tools that I can take out, like coaching, like maybe Gestalt, maybe psychology, and so on, to help to solve that problem? How do you look at that from your point of view?
Oh, another great question. Yeah, I love it, Erwin. And that's exactly what, even if I go to an organization as an external coach, wanting to, do business with them, I will not start with, hey, I'm a coach. Yeah, I'll go and speak to them about their business. What's exciting them about their business? What keeps them awake at night? Especially with their teams, people working, because this is where we deal. Well, anyway, organizations can't treat themselves. It's got to be done through people. So now you find out this is working for me, but this is really concerning, and I worry about that. I don't get sleep about that. Then you talk about possible solutions, right? And then, because I believe CEOs and top managers don't go around thinking I need a coach. They think I need someone who can help me solve this issue.
Exactly.
My people are fighting amongst themselves. There's no synergy and nothing happens. So that's what you talk through with them. So let's look at possible solutions. What do you think? What would you really want? And you engage that. And then at some point, when we've clarified that, and you can find, okay, coaching could play a role here, but then also we have like initiatives and interventions that are aligned with that. We've actually got a whole integrated package. You can position that, or if you're just a coach, you can say, look, all of these things will help. I can support you through coaching to achieve those objectives, to get that solution going, and then fortunately we also do other things, but if we don't, I can recommend someone for you or put you into contact with whoever else can help you. Or I'll bring them together and say, look, let's do a joint thing,
Yes, I love it. That's why I look at it as well. It's really looking at what is the solution that's needed to be, or the problem that needs to be solved. And then looking at what is exactly needed that can help to solve it. You can do it if you have different roles that you can play, you can do this. Otherwise, as you said, is very well looking at, hey, I'll bring in some people that are expertise specifically in that's going to help. And as a team, we're going to solve it.
Yeah. And look, Erwin, I have a very broad experience and background in things. Now, when I started to focus on coaching and leadership development, doesn't mean those things died. They're still part of me. I still have that knowledge and I can help with some, but I also know others. And I'll be able to say if they can do a good job or not. Because I've been doing this. So I still bring everything that's part of me to this thing, you know.
Yeah. So I think that is, but would you, and that's, would you, if you go to a client, an organization, and if you see there's something that really needs to go focused on psychology and not as a coach, would you do it, or would you say I'm just sticking to coaching?
Well, I'm not. So I'm not a registered psychologist, so I'm not going to look for trouble unnecessarily.
Okay.
But, you know, we also through the International Coach Federation, we have guidelines to, you know, when you suspect there's something that's deeper psychology. But that's more to the therapy side. There's a process so you can identify and refer. If it's organization development, and more leaning towards industrial psychology, which where most of my experience lie. I consider that, and if I can't do it myself, I know who I can get to work with me. But then, you know, it's this whole thing of synergy and interdependence. I'll find someone. You know, I'm not going to try to be Chuck Norris and fix everything myself. I'll get other people. Only Superman and Chuck can, you know, fix everything by themselves. The rest of us need other people to work with us. You know.
I love it. Part of what I'm hearing in this conversation that you have with organizational leaders is to focus on what it is that they need. Where are they stuck? Their challenge, what keeps them awake, as you said. What are they wanting? What's their dream? What's their vision? If this were solved, what would that look like? How would they know, and what impact that would have on the business? And then actually from that perspective, what I'm hearing is that you can start to look at what do you have? How can I, as an individual, support this, but also what can I connect or what can I bring to, not to sell a program, not about coaching, but actually to bridge the gap from where the client is to where they want to be. And how do you facilitate that transition seems to be the higher level conversation here. Is that kind of how you see it?
Yeah, I love that. And by the way, when you go through this approach, already you're laying a foundation. Because if they do give you the business, that other thing we talked about, that whole onboarding thing, that becomes easier. Because you're already creating a conducive climate for that, you know. And it's almost like, if I can just bring it down to a one-on-one situation where you have a discovery session with a prospective client, coachee. This is, to me, it's the same thing. It's a discovery session. Because you find out about each other, but you also learn about solutions. If I see a individual one-on-one, and I, in my estimation, okay, coaching is not the thing here that's needed. This person might consider seeing a therapist. We'll have that conversation. Because, Erwin, to your point, what is the issue? And what are possible solutions, you know? And then have that conversation. For me, it's not essential that every meeting I have with a prospective client needs to convert into business. Because not all of them will be good business for me or for the client, you know. Find the ones that you can really get the leverage. You know.
Sorry, two things in there I think are worth highlighting for our audience. Firstly, in essence, we're talking about sales conversations. I know a lot of coaches forget that they have to do sales type conversations and don't even like using the language of that. And yet, at the same time, you're saying, well, the best conversations to enroll clients is to be coach-like with them, to kind of be coaching to get clarity on what their bigger topic is, to
Mhm.
understand, you know, the grow model. What is their goal? What's their reality? What are the options? Well, what are we going to do together? What can we do together?
Yeah.
That the coaches have the skills and the competencies to be able to have really powerful conversations at a large scale, and to then be able to have done that, as you said, starts off the conversation in a coach-like manner, which sets up the journey for success, because it started coach-like, it can continue coach-like
Yeah.
as well. And that these are all skills that we learn in coaching. I love that. It sort of
Yeah.
simplifies something that can feel really big and really challenging.
Yeah. I had someone asking me, or asking all of us, on a WhatsApp group, they need some kind of intervention in their function, their department, which they were talking about Six Sigma principles. So I was looking at something we can do, and I looked at those principles, and you can do everything and align it with those principles, because it's firstly about the customer or the client, right? That's your starting point. What do they want? And then it's got to be supported by data and all of those things. So all these different things, lots of what comes across as flavors of the month often, they're actually all interconnected, So being coach-like, the key thing for me there is you're focusing on their need, the prospective client's needs, because that's the beginning point, and that's coaching. You follow the client, So all of these things, now you just hang another tag on it, coaching or coach-like. It's actually, as you said, Erwin, consultants do it, psychologists do it, but it's where you focus with that, which is the difference, and your approach after that. That's the big difference. I'm not going to take anybody's watch and tell them the time and then they must pay me for it. I'm not a consultant.
It's a great metaphor. I love it.
Yeah.
Hey, Tinus, this has been really interesting, and there's lots of insights and wisdom that you've brought. As we're looking towards the future, what are the big projects or things that are exciting in your world at the moment?
For me, I haven't done as much coaching as I wanted to. Well, actually coaching people, rather mentoring coaches and training coaches and supervision and coaching, but not enough. So for me, this is my own project, is getting involved in that, increasing my own interaction time through coaching. And then also, well, the big thing just landed, and if I can talk about that, that is with your company, coaching tools company, getting to play a role there. We're not sure yet, but it's really exciting for me. Erwin, back in the day, I was still in Saudi Arabia. I've been using your tools already, and recommending, referring people to the website and so on for those tools, because some of them I used and I adapted some of them, customized. So I've been a fan of your business for a long time now. So for me, it's very exciting to actually not come involved, but more than that, just to play a role in there, So for me, that's very exciting to do that. And then there might be where I'm training or educating, there might be some different directions they're going in there as well. So looking forward to that. And yeah, I think that's all I can say about that now.
I
So
love
these
it.
are the main exciting things in my life.
Lots of exciting things. Hey, one that you and I have started to have some conversations with, and I think is a great place for us to kind of finish on, is around the myths of coaching. What is one myth that you think coaches should be aware of that will help them coach more effectively, have the impact on their clients?
There's quite a few, but I'm going to stick with one that jumps up all the time, and that's the word help. Coaches help people. And then when I have conversations with other coaches and I say, but we're not supposed to help. This is kind of a paradox because we believe one of the cornerstones is that people are naturally creative, resourceful, and whole, meaning they already have everything that they need, to find their own solutions. It's just, most of the time it's hidden. Now we're going to Carl Jung, just making the unconscious conscious, right? So in that sense, we don't help, but working with them and your clients getting that aha moment and seeing, okay, but this is what I need. This is a part of me that I haven't met yet, but I know it and I like it. And how do we move forward with that? That very act can also be help, described as help, So it's kind of a paradox. You're not taking a helpless person, you're taking a fully able person and getting them to help themselves. But that whole act of doing that is also can be seen as helping them, So, and I love paradoxes, So
Yeah.
that's one of them.
I love it. I think it's definitely worth exploring further on another conversation. But part of what I hear there is, as you said, people aren't helpless. It's not the help that they need because they're not missing it.
Yeah.
There's the outcome of help. There's all of this confusion of language. But the big thing that I saw from what you were describing is, if I, as a coach, have the view that I'm coming in to help, then it's not true partnership. I've kind of disempowered. I've got the solution and you haven't, and that's a place where we can start as feeling obliged to help. As a coach, I have to deliver this. What is my product? What is my service? How do I prove that I'm doing a good job? And I think that's a place we can definitely get stuck. And yet, I hear you pointing us is towards the ICF definition of coaching, which is around partnership, synergy, interdependence, collaboration. And from that connective, aligned place, well, where are we? What have we got? And how do we help you? How do we help? There's the language again. What wants to emerge as we all move forwards?
So, Steve, if I can just mention something, Steve and Erwin, which for me is crucial. An older British gentleman once came to our company and he had one phrase: the word is not the thing. And I was much younger than now, so that thing stuck with me. So for me, that's the essence of coaching, is not looking at the word, but looking at the thing as described by the client. Because they also need to get rid of this, the word is the thing. They need to get to the thing, which is behind the words. Sometimes the word is behind the thing, but they still cannot see the thing. So unpack it till you can see the thing, behavior. People, every now and again, a new word comes up, but it's just something where they can throw stuff into that. If they don't agree with it, it goes to that word.
The word is not the thing. I think that's really great. There's something about that kind of brings the conversation full circle, because at the very beginning you said, in other words, the word is not the thing. I'll listen to the words, but I'm looking beyond the words at the client, because the coaching is all about the client, not just what they're saying. So the word is still not the thing.
Yeah, and the reality. in terms of behavior that you can observe, you know.
I love it.
Yes. So, Tinus, when people would like to find out more about you or want to like to in contact with you, where can they do that?
Okay, there are two places. One is on LinkedIn. I don't know if I should give you a link, and then I'm also in partnership or associate with a organization called Human Capital Business Solutions. On their website, they can also see. But I think LinkedIn would probably be the
Well,
best place.
LinkedIn is going to be that. So everyone who wants to talk to Tinus, go to LinkedIn, look for Tinus van der Merwe, and there you can find him and connect with him. So,
okay,
Tinus,
I
thank
need
you.
to warn you.
Oh,
There
you
might be
need
a
to warn.
few of us, Erwin.
Oh, you're a few of you.
I
Okay.
think so, but they will find me if they look for
You
coaching.
have you have your picture there, so they can look at your picture. Good.
Yes.
Excellent. Perfect. Tinus, thank you very much for your time with us today, sharing your expertise, knowledge, and insights. Thank you very much, and let's connect soon again. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in to The Coaching Edge. Until next time, keep coaching and keep growing.